movement disorder, dystonia, and do not take your oaths as a muddling between you, so that a foot may slip after it had been firm. The verse is about foot slipping, which implies imbalance when walking. The gene that causes this clinical condition is TAF1. The Theta box binding protein associated factor 1, TAF1, gene is associated with X-linked dystonia Parkinsonism, XDP, a neurodegenerative movement disorder. Dystonia is a movement disorder that causes the muscles to contract. This can cause twisting motions or other movements that happen repeatedly and that aren't under the person's control. Depending on what part of your body they happen in, they can often cause you to move or pose in certain ways. The verse describes the condition in one foot. TAF1 gene location is XQ13.1. The location of the verse mirrors the locations of the gene on the X chromosome. Ankyloglossia, tied tongue syndrome, and loosen a knot from my tongue. Sang, the verse tells about Moses when he went to debate the Pharaoh. The condition tied tongue is mentioned in this verse in the metaphor of a knot in the tongue. The gene that is responsible for this condition is TBX22. Mutations in this gene have been associated with the inherited X-linked disorder, cleft palate or ankyloglossia, and it is believed to play a major role in human palatogenesis. TBX22 gene is located on XQ21.1. The location of the verse mirrors the location of the gene on the X chromosome. Autism spectrum disorder. So, he produced to them a calf semblance, which has a roar. And they said, "This is your God, and the God of Musa, but he has forgotten." He said, "I perceived what they were not perceived with, so I gripped a grip from the messenger's trace. Then I tossed it, and likewise myself enticed me." He said, "So go away. Then for you in this life is to say, no touch." These verses describe the Sumerian who was skilled in making statues. He produced a statue of a calf using the jewelry and ornaments of his people. The calf produced a roar when wind passed through its nose. The behavior of the Sumerian is a hallmark of autism-Asperger syndrome, such as above-average skills, nonconformance to social norms, gripping and tossing the hand for no obvious reason, and hypersensitivity to being touched. Mutations in the gene NLGN3 are known to cause autism spectrum disorder. NLGN3 gene is located on XQ13.1. The location of the verse mirrors the location of the gene on the X chromosome.
Unilateral skin and head lesions. So for those who unbelieved, clothes from fire were cut to them. The hot liquid is poured from over their heads, smelting with it what is in their bellies and the skins. The verse describes a skin condition that looks like clothes accompanied with heat or burn on the head and skin. The gene mutation which causes this condition is EDA, anhydrotic ectodermal dysplasia, is a rare genetic disorder that affects the development of ectodermal tissues, including the skin, hair, teeth, and sweat glands. A key characteristic of EDA is a reduced ability to sweat, or anhidrosis, which can lead to dangerously high body temperatures. Other symptoms include dry, wrinkled, or darker skin and sparse scalp and body hair. EDA gene is located on X13.1. The location of the verse mirrors the location of the gene on the X chromosome. Night vision, or who guides you in the darks of the land and sea, and who sends the winds as cheerers between the hands of his mercy. Is there another God with Allah? Exalted is Allah above what they associate. 2760. The gene which is responsible for night vision is CAF1. Mutation in this gene causes retinitis pigmentosa. Retinitis pigmentosa, RP, is a group of rare eye diseases that affect the retina, the light-sensitive layer of tissue in the back of the eye. CTNAF1 is located on XP1123. The location of the verse mirrors the location of the gene on the X chromosome. Aggressive behavior. Indeed, Pharaoh elevated in the earth and made its people schisms. He weakens a party of them, slaying their sons and ravishing their women. Indeed, he was of the devastators. Yes, there is a real mutated gene that causes brutal, merciless, and criminal behavior. The monoamine oxidase A, MAOA gene, is sometimes called the warrior gene because it's been linked to aggression in some studies. For example, one study found that carriers of the warrior gene who were also exposed to childhood abuse were more likely to engage in violent behavior as adults. The warrior gene has been used in criminal trials in the United States and Germany. MAOA is located on XP11.3. The location of the verse mirrors the location of the gene on the X chromosome. Sensorial congenital deafness. If you call them, they cannot hear your call, and even if they heard, they would not respond to you. The verse describes a type of deafness that is not ear-related. The patient cannot respond to calls suggesting the defect is related to a sensorial heating loss. DFNX3 is the gene responsible for this condition. Patients are usually deaf at birth. DFNX3 is located on X21.2. The location of the verse mirrors the location of the gene on the X chromosome. Duchenne muscular dystrophy, DMD. And if we wish, we would surely mutilate them upon their placement, so they could neither go forward nor return. 3667. The verse describes a condition where the person suffers from some form of mutilation or malformation that causes paralysis or some form of handicap. The gene responsible is DMD, which regulates the production of dystrophin, a protein that helps maintain the integrity of cell membranes in muscle cells. When the DMD gene is mutated, it doesn't produce enough functional dystrophin, which leads to muscle fiber degeneration. DMD is located on XP21. The location of the verse mirrors the location of the gene on the X chromosome.